Okay, let's be honest. If you've ever picked up a William Faulkner book, you've probably had that moment where you think, what is going on here? His novels, they can feel like these super dense, winding mazes. But what if I told you that feeling of confusion? What if that's not a bug, but the actual feature? What if it's the clue to understanding everything? That's the puzzle we're going to get into today.
I mean, it's a great question, right? Why would any author want to confuse you? You'd think the whole point is to be clear, to make sure we follow the story. But Faulkner, yeah, he's playing a totally different game. It feels like he's intentionally putting these hurdles in front of us. And figuring out why he does that, well, that's how we unlock his genius.
All right, so let's jump in. We're going to tackle the Faulkner puzzle head-on and try to decode this literary genius. The goal here is to shift from thinking of his work as just difficult to seeing it for what it is, a pretty incredible reflection of how our own minds work.
You've probably heard this exact phrase before, intentional confusion. It's this idea that he's just being difficult for the sake of being difficult. And you know what? For a lot of people, that's where the journey with Faulkner stops. They just get frustrated and put the book down. Totally understandable.
But let's just flip that idea on its head for a second. What if that confusion isn't a mistake? What if it's a carefully designed tool, not some flaw in the writing, but the main event, the very experience he wants us to have? Now this is where things start to get really cool.
So, to really get this, we've got to go inside what you could call a mental labyrinth. We're not talking about a real maze, of course. We're talking about a way to map the incredible messiness of human memory.
So what is a literary labyrinth? Well, it's basically Faulkner's technique for building a story that just doesn't move in a straight line. Seriously, think about how your own brain works. Do you remember things perfectly in order, from A to B to C? No way! You jump all over the place. A certain smell zaps you back to childhood, and that connects to something you felt just yesterday. It's messy, it's associative, and that's exactly what Faulkner is putting down on the page. And this is the key takeaway, right here. The whole novel becomes a kind of map to a character's inner world. That jumbled up structure, it's not bad writing. It's actually a stunningly accurate blueprint for how we all experience our own lives, our own pasts.
So how does he pull this off? Well, it really comes down to three main tricks. First off, he'll tell the same story but from a bunch of different viewpoints that totally clash with each other. Second, he just smashes the timeline to pieces, jumping from the past to the present and back again. And third, he uses stream of consciousness to drop you right into a character's head so you get all their thoughts completely raw and unfiltered.
And what's the whole point of doing all this? It's to show us that our memory is not some perfect video recorder. Not at all. Our minds are constantly chewing on the past, rethinking it, reinterpreting it, and yep, totally distorting it. Okay, and this is where it gets even deeper. Because when you have all these different kind of warped personal versions of the past all colliding, something really powerful happens. You start to notice the things that aren't being said. You see the gaps.
Faulkner really zeroes in on two big forces that are always battling it out. On one hand, you've got our personal bias, how our own ego, our own baggage colors how we remember things. And on the other hand, you've got this bigger regional bias, all the shared stories and myths of a whole community, like the American South, that shape how everyone sees the world. He just throws them into the ring together.
And what happens when these two things clash? You get blind spots. And these are a huge deal. They're the parts of history that no single person can see, or maybe even wants to see. They're the truths that just kind of fall through the cracks between all these different stories.
This really makes us, the readers, face a pretty tough question. I mean, if every character only has one piece of the puzzle, and every single piece is bent out of shape by their own bias, where is the actual truth? It kind of suggests that history isn't this one solid thing we can look up. It's fractured. It's something that's constantly being argued over.
And this is the moment where Faulkner's books stop being just literature and start feeling like a lesson in psychology. Because really, he's not just writing about some characters in the South, he's writing about all of us.
I mean, think about it. The way his characters misremember things, the way they justify what they did, how they cling so tightly to their version of the past, sound familiar? That's just what it means to be human. We all have one of these mental labyrinths inside our heads, and we're navigating it every single day.
So, what can we take away from all this? The lessons are huge, really. First, our memories, they are not perfect recordings, not by a long shot. Second, the past isn't set in stone. We are always reshaping it based on who we are today.
Third, those biases we have, they're like a filter on a camera, changing how we see absolutely everything. And finally, maybe the biggest one, the real truth is often found somewhere in the space between all the conflicting stories.
And this brings us right back to the beginning. This is why that intentional confusion is actually so valuable. It's not just to be difficult. By making us work to piece it all together, Faulkner's basically training our brains. He's making us better listeners, better critical thinkers. He's teaching us to question any story that claims to be the only story, and to really try and understand points of view that are completely different from our own.
So, that leaves us with one last, pretty challenging thought to chew on. If every story has these blind spots that are created by our biases and our messy memories, then what are the blind spots in the story you tell about your own life? What parts of your past have you processed, and what parts, maybe without even realizing it, have you twisted?